The sign says Bonneville Salt Flats. Do not drive on when wet. Now it's a perfectly
You've got to come over here.
perfectly dry day today, so the opportunity exists that doesn't exist very often to parallel the highway but on the saltway. So obviously you don't head towards the highway, but you head down through the salt. Now it's quite rough in places, and this is what people like Bert Munro mentioned when he was on the salt flats at Bonneville with the Indian. And what a lot of people don't know is that Bert Munro was a Velocette fan. Now Velocette motorcycles don't seem to be well known in the US. They're a motorcycle that was built from the early 1900s through to around about 1971 in England, a place called Birmingham, small heath. And if you're interested, which we hope you are, have the opportunity to look at a number of videos when we went to where the old factory was located and see exactly what happened there. But most people know when the movie The World's Fastest Indian was made, Indian Scout, that Bert brought it across from New Zealand out here at the Bonneville Salt Lakes, and he achieved a record which stands to this day. But he also used a lot of Velocette parts in it, and to this day, if you go to New Zealand, in Invercargill, you may also see the original bike, the parts he used, and of course you can see some of the replicas. So if you want to come to Bonneville Salt Lakes, one thing you've got to do is every now and again just put your foot down a little bit, not too much because it is a rough surface, and just head towards the end of this long straight. Now it's a two-way run. By the way, we're not by any means are we doing a speed trial or anything, but it's got to be a two-way run. And as you can feel, it's quite rough. If you're sitting on a motorbike, you really know that you're doing it. Now, we are not doing anything like even a record speed for a 90cc motorbike, but it is quite rough. But this is just giving you a look at what it's like. The surface hasn't been groomed, it hasn't been anything special done to it. And if you look at the movie The World's Greatest Indian, this is the scene that you see when he's making it. Just like it looks like it's endless. It's not endless, but it goes on and on. And as you can see, there's some water on here. Do not go near the water. There's some distinct water puddles there. Which, not only that, you can get bogged in them, but it becomes extremely rough. So, we've got a little rough patch roads out, things like that, you most certainly wouldn't get to do 100 miles an hour on the Bonneville Salt Flat Lakes. Now you can see they still go on for a few miles yet, quite a few kilometres. We've been doing donuts, very little consideration for the other people. But like I said, it's not a groomed surface, it's a natural surface, and the Department of Land Management, I think they call them, let people come out here. It's public land. It says, welcome to your land. It's not eased off. I'll just show you just some of the areas here around and where we've just come. Way down there, you can't even see where it is, so I hope we can find our way back.
So do I. We're going to go that way.
We're just showing you some of the markers here, and we're going to turn around, but literally there's probably another 5 to 6 miles of track down there, and banded by these beautiful mountains here. We'll just get back over on where we know the track is, and like I said, we're extremely fortunate. There's not a single soul who's ventured out onto the actual Speedway surface while we've been here. So we'll just come back here a little bit, and we'll go back at a much slower pace to let you really know what it's like. But bear in mind, if we were out here setting a record, we would have to go back at the same speed because there's an average of the two. But that's the surface at Bonneville Speedway, near Wendover, almost on the border at Utah. That was where they did the donuts. But you can tell from the camera it's not perfectly smooth, and we've backed right off now to I think it's, without taking my eyes off it, we're only doing about 80 kilometres an hour, 50 miles an hour. So that was the thrill that we had in line for our viewers today. And if you're going to write in or add a comment about doing 100 miles an hour, save your pen and paper or your keyboard, because it is quite legal. There is no speed restriction on the Salt Flats, so no unnecessary comments there. We just lined it back up. This is on the main track now, going back. And of course, when there's no meeting on the thing, you've got to be well aware of is you might have someone coming at 100 miles an hour towards you, or they pass you on the left or the right hand side. They should pass to our left there. See, the surface is pretty smooth. It's very easy to drift off here too. Like I said, you've got a mousse. There's still some water puddles on it, a couple of soft pieces. So you never really know what's going to happen on the occasional motorcycle series. And the best part of it is, a lot of times we don't know either. We might be in a small town somewhere, and someone will say to us, there's a motorbike museum just around the corner, and we're off often keen to go. We don't go to every single motorcycle museum there is. But we're driving down the interstate the other day and we saw the Kansas Motorcycle Museum. The sign was pretty brief, so it said Kansas Motorcycle Museum and an arrow. So luckily we asked Mr. Google and Mr. Google came up with a phone number and we rang and we had a lovely lady there who helped us find the place and waited for us, and then actually got one of the other volunteers, because it's all volunteer run. Just keeping a good eye out here. If you wonder why the commentary is a little bit slow, like I said, I don't want to see someone rocketing towards me at 100 miles an hour plus and realise that they're not going to pass on our left there. So we're taking it fairly calm so that we can take quite sudden evasive action if necessary. And anyhow, they brought in a volunteer, and the volunteer stayed with us, told us about some of the unique motorbikes they got there. But remember, it's one of the many museums. You've got Sammy Miller's in the UK, you've got the British Motorbike Museum at Birmingham. Of course, in the United States, Amorosa's closed down, which was a real shame. It's a tremendous museum at Amorosa. So, we caught up with a couple of the bikes actually at the museum the other day. There's Bonneville Motorcycle Museum down in Alabama. They're the Kansas Motorcycle Museum. We caught up with a couple of the bikes there, and they've been spread around the world. I don't think any of them actually came to Australia. Some was sold too cheap, unfortunately, but the family didn't want to keep Amorosa going. And of course, you can come to Australia to the National Motorcycle Museum south of Taree. There's the Powerhouse Museum at Tamworth. There's an Indian Museum in Brisbane. It's just some of the ones. It's marvellous how much distance you cover at 100 miles an hour. It seems only a few seconds of travel, but you can tell by the return run just how much distance we covered in that time. But like I said, you were extremely fortunate to be able to come along with us today, because there'd be many days when the Bonneville Salt Speedway, Bonneville Salt Lake Speedway would be closed, either because there's a meeting on, it floods here, and when it floods, believe me, from the reading I've done, you might spend months before the surface is sufficiently hard to go on again. And right on cue, we find that we're lined up with the finish line, but like I said, we're not doing a return run. Just cruising along to give you plenty of time to get the feel of what it's like. Actually, the surface was excellent. There's only that one rough patch and one wet patch. We had to avoid the wet patch. Fortunately, it was before we got up to top speed, because that would have upset the run. This wet patch was actually probably 6 inches deep or more. Streamliners and things like that, 6 inches can bog your vehicle in entirely. They can cake the back wheel if you're on a motorbike with salt and lock it up. There's lots of things, and that's one patch just there. So we'll bring you back and show you what we had to miss on the way up, because if you hit that at speed, you're in all sorts of problems. We had one little rough patch here, come back. So we'd like to thank the Bureau of Land Management in Utah for the opportunity as a member of the public to actually experience Bonneville Speedway at speed. And we hope we've left, well, we know we've left the surface just as good, or perhaps even a little bit better. We ran the right type of tyres, we ran slick tyres, so we didn't tear it up, we did no donuts, we didn't deviate off the course or anything like that, so we would have actually compacted it a little bit. We didn't leave any mess on it, we didn't blow any tyres, we didn't leak any oil, we didn't drop any fuel, anything like that on the surface. So we're just cruising back very sedately. In fact, most of the vehicles would be under tow for this last part. They'd be eagerly awaiting to see what their time was, or to see their crew jumping up and down. So if you look, get a little bit off course here, you can see two trucks straight ahead. They're on the interstate. They will get very, very upset to see someone rocketing towards them, even at 100 miles an hour, let alone 300 miles an hour. And guess what? If you were driving, it'd be like the story with the bears. If they're black, yell and scream. If they're brown, play dead, lie down. If they're white, say good night. There's a family having a picnic on it, making a salt castle. And of course the other thing that some idiots do is they have campfires here and they leave sticks and all that. Saw some there, so if you want to do a speed run, you've really got to be very extremely careful about it. Know what the surface is like. See, this is the end of it now. It's starting to get quite chopped up. Mightn't really feel chopped up. It might feel like some road you go on, but if you're running slick tyres and you're doing speed, a little bit, see there's people there done donuts and silly things like that. Silly buggers around, just destroying the surface. So if you enjoyed your speed run on Bonneville at 100 miles an hour legally, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you've been out here and done 200 or 300 miles an hour, good luck to you. We'll probably read about you in the record books. Otherwise, you're probably having yourself on. But it is possible. See, it's back to a nice smooth surface. We're coming back into what would be the pit area. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thanks very, very much for being along on our very sedate speed run.